Niggas be acting like they can't get it, man. They can't get it, man. For real, man. For real, man.
Tell
I'll
me.
smoke on these niggas, man. Yo, I'll smoke on these niggas, man. Real quick, man. I'll be chilling, man.
Mastery doesn't get to be about you. That could be what we are resisting. That could be what we are having a hard time processing and aligning with, conceptualizing. The fact that mastery does not get to be about you. I'm sorry. It's the bigger picture. It's the purpose. It's the meaning of life. Your selfish aims and ambitions have nothing to do with why you came to earth, regardless of how much you've attached to it. You won't understand anything about your life until you have reason to accept that. I chose this image that you're looking at for a reason. A wet nurse slave and a master's daughter. This was common in the times of slavery, that most white women didn't breastfeed their own children. That is, those who owned slaves. Okay, let me be specific here. Those who owned slaves. Black women nursed their children. This was the beginning of the modern concept of the Big Mama. She served as the watchful eye, the guardian, the conscience, not only of that child, the consoler of that child, but also of the household itself, but with little words. We all know she couldn't get out of line. There wasn't much that she could say. But there is something special about the black woman and people of color, especially, that know how to get a point across in body language, in clairvoyance, in intuition, in spirit. We know how to communicate without using any kind of words at all, and very effectively. She served as the conscience, the gauge of moral compass. Wet nurse says it all. The breast. The breast of a healthy, stout body. A healthy, stout body. A rich blood. A superior genetics. You're looking at an indigenous woman. And this little girl, the little white girl, suckling from the richest blood known to man, straight from the black woman. So let's transfer this to metaphysics, some esoteric application. Obviously, well, not obviously, but traditionally, a child of this complexion would not be the daughter of a darker skinned indigenous person. Okay? Even though a darker skinned indigenous person can give birth to any shade, any skin color. Okay? So, I can't take the assumption that, a daughter of that complexion could not come from him, because that simply would not be true. It can't happen in the reverse. But, from a black woman to other shades, yes, it certainly can be. But anyway, This demonstrates a perfect principle of what's going on here, and the fact that it's not her blood daughter. It's not her biological daughter. So it's similar to the context of the grandmother, in that the grandmother is not the immediate mother. She's from the detached disposition in her observation. She has experience behind her. She's already done her child rearing, her raising of children, and she's observing from wisdom. She's observing without obligation to the person, but responsibility to the purpose, to the function, to the cause. Okay? That in and of itself sets the context of Aquarius. So you looking at this grandmother figure with the little white girl, okay? That's Aquarius all day. It's a detached relationship of universal connection, compassion, love, nurturing, motherhood, so on and so forth, okay? That's you. And the little white girl would be your soul connections that you now have to align with in your life. The soul connections, okay? So behind you are those attachments, not connections, but personal attachments that you had to unlearn and disengage from, because that no longer is a context of evolution for us. Personal pursuits. No more personal pursuits. Now, what makes a great demonstration of this again, as you know, in those days, a slave woman could give birth to a child, and at any time, the child could be sold. Ripped right out of her hands and brought into commerce. Livestock. The baby could be sold, okay? So there's that trauma behind her as she gazes at this child with universal love. That trauma is still behind her. How many children did she have to sell of her own? But yet she has to breastfeed this little girl? And she's smiling at her with an expression of universal love. She's still able to smile at her with universal love, okay? So this picture demonstrates a lot of things that you might be able to relate to in an esoteric sense for yourself, okay? With all that trauma behind her, she doesn't get to suckle her own baby. She doesn't get to bring her own child into the warmth. They sold her. But here's this little girl as she has to treat as her own child and suckle her, be motherly to her. What are the things that we have to overcome to get to such a detached universality in how we show up? How do we get to that level of mastery with all of the emotional burdens that we have to make it through in order to see that view that you're seeing in this picture? You do the math. That's what's happening right now. So all the trauma behind you were personal pursuits, attachments that you felt entitled to, that you assumed was supposed to be the reason or the point. What you tried to just, to make up to be the purpose of your life, the reason why you're here. Who's supposed to be included in it and whatever else. But those behind you turned out to be teachers, karmic lessons, karmic cycles, so on and so forth. This is where we are supposed to connect with soulmates. Masters coming together with masters. Visionaries with visionaries. And we are supposed to connect on universal love. Recognizing in each other, being able to see in each other that purpose comes with this person. That my purpose expands with this person or with those persons or in this direction. Do we have the ability to see with that view yet? Sometimes your pussy can get in the way and sometimes your dick can get in the way of that. Because you can't see past these things. You can't get to the universal view of love or the concept of universal love and who you're connected with in your life or who shows up in your life. You can't comprehend it because you're not used to thinking in this way. That this person manifested in your life because there's a purpose that you are supposed to fulfill together. And yes, love is included in it, but not the sick love that you're used to. Not the selfish control that you call love. Not the toxic addictions and escapism, self-entrapment and self-undoings that you have created a cycle of futility in. No. It is not selfish. It is what you and them or him or her can come together to accomplish that is bigger than both of you. Why do we have a hard time stepping into this frame of thought, this frame of consciousness, this way of thinking? Why is it so difficult for us? Why? Because there's nothing selfish in it for us, so we don't want to deal with it. There ain't nothing selfish to consume of it. It's got to be me, my, all about me, what I can consume. Our greed and our lust and control. Where is the purpose in your life? Where's the meaning of your life being fulfilled? Where is the purposeful life that you're supposed to be living? Who are you supposed to create it with or through? Why are you not coming together upon those ideals and confessing it, bringing it out into an open, speaking it? Looking at your life with this universal love is different than looking at your life with selfish assumptions and entitlements. The life of selfish assumptions and entitlements is full of pain, regret, agony, trauma, drama, toxicity. And you spend your whole life recovering, your whole life healing, your whole life getting over this pain and that trauma and this pain and that trauma, that power struggle, trying to subdue someone or something into the clutches of your control. Where's the purpose? Where's the meaning? I will expand this when I speak about the 22, South Node Virgo. We are supposed to be at the codes of mastery, and looking through mastery is what makes it all make sense. It's not personal. It ain't about you. And furthermore, you are here to co-create, not just create on your own from your ego. Co-creation. And co-creation means you have to have a little bit of humility. You have to know when to surrender. When to take your hand off and when to put your hand on. What portion is your responsibility and what portion is yours to know with faith and conviction and trust that the forces of this universe will conspire in your favor so long as you are at the frequency of participation. As long as you are engaged in spirit and attitude, willingly, present with that conviction and gratitude. You are at the mercy of source, not resource. We are filled with fear because of our lack of alignment in these things. Confusion because of the lack of alignment in these things. In illumination, what does Virgo point at? Okay, this is in context of Ceres. Ceres conjunct Chiron. Okay, what it's saying is, what responsibility do I owe to my pain? What responsibility do I owe to my sense of inadequacy? What responsibility do I owe to my low self-esteem? What responsibility do I owe to the idea that I cannot move forward or I cannot act on who I am? that I'm not getting the fulfillment or the connection to the reality that I know I'm here, that I'm born for. So it points us back at the responsibility that we have to ourselves. And there's two places in your natal chart where you verify that. That is your sixth house. And whatever the algorithm of the sixth house suggests to you is your responsibility. That's how you answer that question at Chiron. And you look to your Virgo placement, the house themes of your Virgo placement. What are the house themes of your Virgo placement that you must step up to in order to feel like you are nurturing, performing the act of nurturing to Chiron? It's nurturing through responsibility. It's performing the acts of nurturing through responsibility. What are the acts of nurturing responsibility that we owe to the self in the injuries that we have, the pains and inadequacies that we have? Where did we fail to act responsibly on behalf of our identity? On behalf of these insecurities, on behalf of ourselves? Where did we fail to act responsibly? This is what we want to investigate. We've got to feel it as we investigate it so that it's sincere. But the self is to be studied. We must study the self, not just loathe, wallow, and cry. It's okay to cry, vent, do what you got to do. But you have to study yourself. Study yourself. Study yourself. You've got to study yourself. Let me share something with you. When the Holy Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was in the cave meditating, Jibril or Gabriel came to him on several occasions. And on one occasion he came to him and he said, Iqra, which means read. And he being illiterate, he said to Gabriel, I cannot read. I'm illiterate. And Jibril said it again. He said, Iqra, read. And he said it again. I can't read. And he said again, Iqra. Iqra. Bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Iqra. Bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord who has created. What does that tell us? In the name of your Lord who has created. Read. In the name of your Lord who has created. That's Pisces, Aries, cusp suggestion right there. In the name of your Lord who has created. In the name of your higher faculty that has initiated that which was in Pisces into Aries. Created. Read in the name of that. And what does it mean to read in that context? Read the symbols, Pisces. Read the symbols. Esoterically, read. Metaphysically, read. Comprehend symbols into meaning. Which parallels transferring symbols into form or concepts into form. Bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read. Iqra. Bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord who has created. Surat Al-Alaq, if you want to look it up. Surat Al-Alaq, which is the 96th surah or chapter. We're being asked to read. Read. Read yourself. Read the message that has manifest to you. What are you being instructed to? What are you being guided to? Certainly the symbols are there for you to read. If you want to. There's a song that I was reminded about. There's a song. It's called it's the 80s. I believe it was the 80s. But the song is Rhythm is a Dancer. You know what I mean? All y'all out there that, born in the 70s, 80s. Yeah, 70s and 80s, you know what I mean? You know this song. Rhythm is a Dancer. And I was listening to that song, you know what I mean? Because I was, I'm a song junkie. I'm a music junkie. You know what I'm saying? I like listening to music. And I happened to come across that song. And the first thing it had me to think about, rhythm is a dancer. Was Pisces, Pallas Athena, and Venus, and Mercury in transit? Rhythm is a dancer. Synonymous with the concept of reading. Pisces is so esoteric, symbolic. It is abstract. And music and dance is that communication. It's an esoteric communication of the body. Rhythm really is a dancer. We know that dance is expression. It's expression that harmonizes itself with a particular rhythm. Expression of the body, of the components of the body that expresses itself with a particular rhythm. Components of the body. This culmination of planets, aspects, transits, and there is a rhythm to all of these cycles and transits. Pallas Athena is what helps us to realize it as a dancer. And Venus. That if we could get to the other side of our need for control and rigid assumptions, such as shadow or detriment of Virgo, okay, which is where is our rigid control active that gets in the way of the dance. It gets in the way of the free flow of the body. It's us being so rigid. Can you dance if you're rigid? Can you dance if you're stiff? Can you dance if you're so damn controlling and rigid over your body? You can't. The more of that Virgo energy that's concentrated, that rigidity that's concentrated, the more you're working against the dance that's supposed to be taking place. The more you're working against your ability to catch the rhythm of these transits and cycles and what's taking place, because you're resisting it and insisting on rigid assumptions in your life, being rigid and controlling in your life, having to have so much control. We're supposed to be one with the universe, one with spirit, flowing. And the more that you tap into love, the more you tap into compassion, the more you tap into sharing, the more you tap into intimate connections, the more you tap into celebrating, each other, the more you tap into the matriarchal core, which is to reorganize your intentions around the matriarchal principles and reasons in life, Cancer. The more alive you become with that water trine from whence that rhythm is being the temple of the rhythm is being set. That's where the temple of that rhythm is really being set from, is the waters. But we're not going to see that in being so damn rigid. From Capricorn, and what we want to participate of these corporate ideals and ambitions that we held on to. Virgo, rigid control in our life, so that we can assume perfection and narcissistic comparisons of ourselves with others, escaping shame, escaping scrutiny, escaping judgment and criticism, escaping being revealed or exposed as not having it all together. It's too much energy and too much effort being put into such things. And then when we get to Taurus, there had to be a loosening up of those old values that were not serving us. Where were those values getting us? Since 2018, we were learning how to let go of those values that no longer pertain to us, that no longer are relevant. The bullheadedness, the stubbornness that has us fixated on what we can consume, addicted to so much comfort in our life instead of movement.
Talking out loud, saying you bought us this and that. How much you done spent? I swear she must believe it's all heaven sent.
Uranus is trying to get us into finding joy, acceptance, and contentment in movement, not in comfort and consumption of Taurus. And what is that? That's the dancer right there. It's transferring air and fire. It's like getting into dance mode. Going from Taurus Uranus into Gemini Uranus, this is transferring our concept of authenticity to universal ideals that is expressed in constant movement, constant motion, not rigid fixation in indulging ourselves in constant comforts and stagnation, but finding our empowerment and liberation through constant movement of intellectual exchange and value. That's the dancer. Rhythm is a dancer. And these energies are conspiring to align us with a dance mode of ourselves, in a sense, to where we are blending with these energies and we're not rigid, stuck, and all, uptight. We're flowing. And we're not judging and criticizing the turns of the flow. We're not judging and criticizing the imperfections, the missteps. You're dancing. You're dancing. The more careless and flowing you are, the better dancer you are. The more you let go and let loose, the better you can dance. You so damn uptight and rigid, you know what I'm saying? You ain't dancing. You got some stiff ass choreography. You know, I explained this, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, it was in the message of, let me find it here, in case you want to go look for it. Fiat Illusions. Or was it? Was it Fiat Illusions? Yeah. Yeah. No. Mastery is beautiful, okay? So if you go to Mastery is Beautiful, or then again, maybe it was Fiat Illusions. Mastery is Beautiful. Damn. Which one was it? Yeah, it is. Mastery is Beautiful. Okay, so if you go to Mastery is Beautiful, that sets the basis for what I'm saying, that rhythm really is a dancer. That's the basis right there. So if you go back to that message and the points that I'm making and what the correlation is between Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, and the sensory perception, the nervous system, and removing rigid control from the nervous system, which exposes Virgo, and that could be part of the message too, is that I was too controlling. I was trying to control too much. I was too judgmental and critical of myself to where I was unable to flow with the perfect wisdom of the universe, assuming that my wisdom was sufficient, and it's not. There's a design, there's an intention, there's a measure. That perfect wisdom is determining, and it's not going to agree at every point of crisis with what I assume my experience is to mean at any given time. So there's a lot of grace I got to give. There's a lot of surrendering I got to do if I'm going to co-create, if I'm going to flow. There's a lot of grace that I got to lean into. I have to stay aware that there's grace in operation. I have to stay aware of the fact that I'm co-creating, not creating. So I have to get that arrogance out of my system. I have to get that rigid control assumption out of my system. I'm in flow state. I'm dancing here. I'm dancing. I'm fucking dancing. And you should be dancing too. Not being a hard ass standing on a wall, mean mugging and shit. You know what I mean? Loosen up. Loosen your ass cheeks a little bit. Pause. You know what I mean? Go to the bar and get a drink or something so you could calm the fuck down. Roll a blunt or something. I mean, goddamn. You know, the rigid fixation that we have is getting in the way of perfect wisdom incorporating into the design of the flow state. Understand that. So anyway, I think I emphasized that enough. Questions, comments, concerns, all of that, let's build. You heard?
On the fucking scene, rolling out in the steam, I make the getaway clean. I made a block, then I switched to the other ride. I'm still in shock, cause I just did a homicide. I executed me some punks that deserved it. They had a warrant for their death, so I served it. I gave them a dose of their medicine. I bet them hoes may not never try that shit again. Most of y'all wanna see some blood spilling anyway. By this fault, niggas dying young, all this every day. Let the rest slipped up in your tapper, you could clog out. Had a base.
Cuando estaba cantando a ella se le fue la voz, ya se le fue el conjunto, el pariguayo lo dobló. Esta noche me sale con ella su amiga y yo,
All right, take a little spin with me real quick, you heard? We're gonna walk these dogs. All right, check it out. Lunar transit, forming a cluster with Aries, Ceres, and Chiron. This is an activation point, a reflection point, and it's presenting a connection to feeling, to this experience and assignment that's ahead. And whenever the moon makes such an aspect, you have to take into consideration the nodal transiting axis at hand to get the context. Understand that. South node, you have you have Virgo. North node, you have Pisces. Okay? From a numerological standpoint, this is frequency 9 at the south node, frequency 7 at the north node. 7, well, this also can include frequency 6, okay? 6 and 7. At the nuances, okay, of the north node, that would include frequency 2, okay? So 2, 6, 7. 2, 6, 7, the numerology that you want to look into and investigate and getting context out of the North Node transit. 2, 6, and 7. All right? 2, Luna. 6, Venus. 7, Neptune. Okay? So those are the 3 contexts that you got to take with the North Node transit at Pisces. Understand that. All right? So what's ahead is based upon how you relate to those energies, to those impulses. Now, looking at the past, okay, Virgo, you got to take into consideration 22 and 9. 22 and 9, all right? Take these 2 numbers into consideration from a numerological perspective. Number 22 is what we're really reaching for. Mastery, master builder. 22, master builder, okay? That's the bodybuilder. 22 as the bodybuilder. You know what nutrients that the body needs. You know what rest it needs. You know how to push through the pain to get the proper reps and sets. You know proper form. You know how to manipulate your body in such a way it's where pain, discomfort, discipline, due process, it's not an obstacle for you, but it's a means for you, okay? There's another way to look at this thing. So when we look at the burdens of the 22, the burdens at the South Node, and the number 9 process that aligned us with the maturity that got us out of the arrested developmental state in which we were subjugating ourselves to the detriment of Venus in Luciferic false light, where we were getting entranced, okay, by these false lights, fool's gold, superficiality, competition, the distracting junk, the garbage, okay, that really wasn't going anywhere. It tastes good, it feel good, but it wasn't really doing nothing. All right, empty calories. You got your Debbie cake, you got your lollipop, you got your soda, but you also got diabetes along with that. You got all kind of inflammation along with that. You got obesity along with that. You got all kind of problems that went along with you indulging in all of these sweets. Okay, so that was to starve the body off to get back to its natural state. Fasting, okay? Fasting, in other words, from Venus. We had to fast from Venus to get back to default. Okay? So in hindsight of that fasting, what did you learn? What did you learn? What did you also observe about the power of isolation, that number 9 being pressed? What was it about Venus that you tended to run off with and get lost in? What was it about Venus that you tended to hurt yourself with? That you tended to create all types of karmic cycles that were futile? Okay? Do you trust yourself again at this point? Do you finally trust yourself? Do you see the number 22 at the South Node, to where all of these experiences has now given you a sense of mastery about how you will handle that house? Okay? The South Node is not all the way out of Virgo, but it's on the way out of Virgo. And there will be a pour-in into Virgo to restore it to its full capacity and state of confidence. But when that happens, will you forget the things that you learned? Will you forget the things that you suffered? Will you forget? Will you conveniently forget? We went through a lot to get this right. Black Moon Lilith transit through Virgo, Mars transit through Virgo, South Node at Virgo, series eclipses 2024, 2025, no, 2024 through Virgo. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but okay, we had an eclipse season through there that introduced us to this North and South Node transit. All right, so there was a lot of things going on with Virgo. In detriment with Virgo, too rigid, relying a little bit too much on what you can do, on what actions you could take, on what you could keep control of, what numbers and tallies that you could have, what knowledge you have.
My Dougie, my Dougie, my Dougie, my Dougie. She say she like my Dougie.
Too much control. And see, that's the shadow with 22. All of us had to deal with the shadow with 22 because at Virgo, we all had a shadow lingering of 22. What's that shadow lingering? Okay? It is to assume that there's nothing else to learn. There's nothing else that you could be taught about that energy. You know everything already. So as the judge, you sit there dismissing everything that was meant to be a blessing to you because it came in an imperfect image. You wrote off everything that really was meant for you because it didn't have a perfect image. It didn't fit the narrative. It didn't fit the story in your head. So we had to come full circle to humble ourselves a little bit and start to take value informed by spirit, not informed by what we have confidence in our experience, or what we have confidence in our knowledge. The arrogance that walks with us. What were you writing off and dismissing in your life? What opportunities were you blowing? What blessings were you just darting right past it, didn't even see it? The blessings that was right under your nose, but you just stepped right over it, okay? Because there's a narrative in your head. And if it don't fit the narrative in your head, you just dismiss it, just walk, oh, nah, I don't need that, whatever. Nah, that ain't what I'm looking for. Nah, I'm good. And you keep going. You have to let Pisces water that number 22 down, okay? People out there who have life path number 22, heart soul urge number 22. You have a serious destiny with the Virgo Pisces axis. These individuals who have 22 mastery number, they usually have the moon at Pisces, okay? The moon is usually at Pisces, and Virgo is usually at the south node for these individuals, or sometimes it could be, north and south node in another place. However, the moon is usually in opposition to that. And that's a softener, okay? That's a softener. What it's doing is what that's telling you for that number 22 is, matter of fact, I'll go down the list. Don't assume too much. Don't think you know every fucking thing. Don't always assume that you're the one who got all the damn answers. Don't be so fast to write off what is not perfect or what is not ideal to you. Don't be so fast to dismiss and just say, oh, this, no, I don't want that. Nah, that ain't gonna work. Nope, see, here it go again. Same old, I ain't even gonna deal with that. And you just write it off. Because there's something that you're missing, is that the universe co-creates with you from perfect wisdom. Perfect wisdom is co-creating with you. And if perfect wisdom is co-creating with you, that comes through Pisces, abstract design, irregular patterns, unrecognizable energies and frequencies that have to find form in collaboration.
Dicen la negra Martina que brinca por los palacios, cayó dentro de una olla, de bandazo entre las mallas. De bandazo va ella, de bandazo anda ella, de bandazo. Ay, que de bandazo, la negra Martina cayó en la malla, de bandazo. De bandazo va ella, de bandazo anda ella, de bandazo. Se pasaba todo el día buscando en palacio, a ver si alguien la quería, pero todo fue un fracaso. De bandazo va ella, de bandazo anda ella, de bandazo. Ay, de bandazo, ay, va la negra, de bandazo. De bandazo va ella, de bandazo.
Value and meaning that does not have an already agreed to concept to relate to in the material realm. There's a lot that you're going to be missing because of your damn assumptions that come out of Virgo. You have a rigid nature there. You have mastered something, you have gotten good at something, and if something is not perfect or up to your liking, if it doesn't make you look glorified, if it doesn't make you look perfect, if it takes away from the flawless picture that you have, you just write it off, you cut it up, you delete it, you just get it out of here. Okay? That's what you were dealing with, or I was dealing with, what we were dealing with at that Virgo placement. That was getting in the way of the co-creative principle that was to operate in our life. The co-creative principle. And the co-creative principle does not come in agreement to what you have already idealized as the appropriate concept or what should be ideal. It doesn't agree with that. It presents to you what is already perfect, but it will look imperfect to you. It will seem imperfect to you. You will judge it, you will criticize it, you will pick it apart until you finally just dismiss it and throw the baby out with the bathwater, and you didn't even know. You just ruined your blessings. You ran off and darted off into something else. Does that sound like a familiar story? How many times have you done that? The 22 can be very condescending to others. Somebody could have an idea around you. Somebody could have brilliance or genius to share. And because the 22 is used to doing this process and procedure over and over again, they could do it with their eyes closed. They just dismiss it. Oh, yeah, whatever. Here, take this plywood. Go over there and put it up over there. Whatever. Yeah, I don't want to hear your ideas. Oh, no. I already know how I want to do it. Nah, don't worry about that. Shut up. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, get back to work. Yeah, I need you to do this and that. They're not open. Just real, it's automatic. Bam, like that. Bam, like that. Bam, like that. They just dismiss things. You dismiss, you cut off, you block, you delete, you reject because it doesn't fit your narrative. It doesn't fit the plan that you already got. It doesn't fit the ideals that you already have conceptualized in yourself. So you reject it. So how can the universe co-create with you? And that's the case because the universe uses agency and vessels to co-create with you for you. But you'll dismiss them. The 22 often has a blind spot. Okay? The blind spot is the fact that the 22 is already at mastery. So because the 22 is already at mastery, the intention of the universe is not for you to finish building a house. It's not for you to finish pouring the concrete. It's not for you to finish fixing a car. It's for you to realize that you are to be a compassionate teacher, a demonstrator, a mentor, a source of confidence and the ability for others to believe in themselves. A director, a teacher, a guide, a mentor. That's the role. The point is not whether or not you could take out the engine in the car and put it back in, rather or not you could do a hairstyle so perfect. Somebody says, hey, I want a hairstyle like this, I want a hairstyle like that, and you could just whip it up just like that. The point isn't for you to show off and get praise and glory. The point isn't for you to cash a check. The point is not for you to do the process that you are so good at doing. The point is for you to become the teacher, to bring others up to your level of perfection without injuring them, to bring them up to your perfection without breaking them. without insulting them, without making them lose their confidence and belief in themselves. That's the point. With the 22 energy, you forgot the whole damn point of you having that Virgo placement. That Virgo placement is not there for you to show off. It's there for you to serve as a master. That's where you are already a master. Standing in the 22. Teaching others how to show up in that level of refinement. Transferring refinement to others through that particular house theory, that house theme. And when you look in when we look at the second context of that, you observe the 6th house. That applies also to the 6th house algorithm for your natal birth chart. See, we're stuck and fixated in, I got to finish building this house. Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good at doing this. Oh man, why can't I do it? And somebody comes along, 3 people come along who don't know shit about building a house. Okay? And you're frustrated because your personal ambition, which is grounded and rooted in Capricorn, okay, follow what I'm saying. Because you have a ground root in Capricorn, you're ambitious about it. That shadow 8 is causing you to take an ambitious approach to the fact that you're there to build a house, and the help that shows up are 3 people who don't know nothing about, they don't even know how to use a hammer. And you're frustrated, you're mad, your face is all balled up and everything else because you're sitting there in a situation like, how am I supposed to build a house? And I got 3, incompetent people who don't know what they're doing. You're missing the point. The point is not for you to build the house. The point is for you to perform as a teacher. The point is for you to have a personal connection to those who were sent to you. The point is for you to be a source of confidence and competence to people who do not have that level of perfection and mastery in themselves. You are focused on the wrong damn things, and you made it about yourself, Leo, South Node coming up. You made it about yourself. So you have to step out of the Capricorn theory into the Cancer theory with assumption of the mother and not the assumption of the devil. Okay? The devil card. You have to take the assumption of the nurturing mother and the nurturing and the guiding father. That is Cancer and Leo. So if your basis is Cancer and Leo, the nurturing mother and the guiding father, the advocating mother and the teaching father, you will see it differently. You will see your purpose. You will see meaning. You will see why you came to earth. You will see value. You will recover the self-esteem that you were missing. You'll stop being in a rush. You will find a way to be present instead of being attached to the past disappointments and the future fears and anxieties about what you feel like, what deadline you feel like you're not going to reach. Because guess what? You are already in your purpose once you have agreed and realized the reality of what meaning is being applied, which is the fact that you should be a teacher and a master from the context of your Virgo placement. Not someone who has a selfish ambition to hurry up and build something. You made it about the fact that you got a car to change the engine out of, but it doesn't mean anything if there's not a young, teenager here or somebody, some 20-year-old something here who got their who just got their first tool set to learn it from you. It don't mean anything if there's not somebody to learn from you. It doesn't mean anything for you to build a house if nobody is learning how to build a house from you. That's what you're forgetting, because once the context turns into Cancer instead of Capricorn, the meaning is different. The reason why you're there is different. It's quality time, the bonding of mother and child, the bonding of father and child, Leo, to that person. It's a bonding. It's that connection. It's that line of intimacy through the process. But we're miscontextualizing it because we have not moved our foundation from Capricorn into Cancer yet. Once we do, we open up compassion in our perception And we see we already have reached heaven. And heaven is already standing between me and those who are at my mercy and those whose mercy I am at. And it is simultaneous always at the same time. We have to get out of our way. We have a conjunction building up with Ceres in Aries, conjunct with Chiron, and just recently the moon conjuncted with and formed a cluster of insight here. The intensification of the moon here, it brought a command of care. Care, advocacy, reflection. Care, advocacy, reflection. In order to direct our attention to that need for care, advocacy, and reflection, we have to feel it. You got to feel that combination of what it was illuminating, the moon and Aries. Okay? So, what you could have felt are past life themes of Aries Chiron and Aries Ceres. Where I'm wounded and where I was lacking care. Where I am wounded and where I am lacking care. An ongoing legacy of this. This could scare the shit out of you. Okay, so I'm throwing that out there just to neutralize the situation and let you know it's not just you. Be merciful to yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. It's meant to be a reflection. You've got to feel it. So something manifested in your life to remind you of this pattern, this ongoing pattern, to remind you of this legacy that you now are meant to change, that you now are meant to bring to an end. Which algorithm in particular do we have to look at to investigate Ceres and what's intended? It's Virgo primarily. Taurus and Cancer secondarily. Okay? So all three of these places is what's behind what we're realizing care is supposed to look like now, because we've got to do something about this. Virgo South Node is closing. What have you learned from Virgo South Node? I'm going to explain a lot in this discourse. You have to be patient because I have to build up to the flow, okay? I'm going to build up to it to bring down the flow of what's going on here. But here's what we need to lead in thinking about. There's two contexts to your Virgo placement at the South Node. One is in Capricorn, one is in Cancer. In Capricorn, you're out of gas. If you take Capricorn into consideration of what you've been getting out of your Virgo placement, if Capricorn is the foundation for how you perceive it, how you relate to it, how you interact with it, you're out of gas. You're only going to continue to repeat the same disappointment. You will never be satisfied. It's meant for us to transfer the basis of our perception of all energies within our chart, the whole entire wheel of the 12 algorithms of spirit, rooted in Cancer. That's the context. That is the difference. Because when you root it in Cancer, what you have realized through cancer, what you have established through cancer, and the greatest themes of that correction through cancer was a Cancer Mars retrograde transit that was to re-establish a peace treaty between you and inner child. That healing that took place and the shadow work that followed after that, which was to reclaim the lost children of your own soul who became delinquents because you rejected them and said, you don't have the right to take up space, you don't have the right to have a voice, you don't have the right to express yourself through me, the vessel. So I reject you. And you left them under the bridge. And the Scorpio stellium was to recover your children that you left under the bridge in spirit. Shadow work. So having said that, these are things that you now understand. These are things that you now know that Capricorn is not my foundation. Capricorn is not my source. The matriarchal mother is. I represent the matriarchal confederacy. I represent my mother Yemeya. So if she is the basis of my realization of myself, the basis of my intention and my will for myself, what have I clarified in what self-care really means? It is in righteousness. It is in clarity in your moral compass. It is a recovery of the active force and power of your conscience. It is the oracle of your conscience. It is the appreciation of all of those agents and agencies of the matriarchal source who comes in representation and manifestation in your life, pointing back to the fact that she is ever mindful, ever watchful of you because of who is present with you. But do you have the wisdom now to recognize her presence with you through the vessels of others? Through the feedback and interactions and connections that you have with others in your life? Are you appreciating the Cancer reality? The expansion of Cancer through Jupiter in your life? Because indeed it has happened. But are you connected to it, and are you appreciating and cherishing and maintaining, nourishing, nurturing those connections in her name? If you still are attached to the ambitious race, the futility, the greed, the superficiality, the politics, the hype of Capricorn as your basis, the Machiavellian mind state that you get to bow out of, the illusions, the matrix, the representation of the fictitious incorporated character of yourself, not the living man or the living woman. If that's still the context and basis of your thought process and intentions throughout life, yes, your suffering is only going to increase ahead of you. You already lost before you began. We were supposed to be on a mass migration out of Capricorn into Cancer. Moses already came and said to Pharaoh, let my people go. Did you lag behind? Did you kick, cry, and complain the whole entire way there? Or did you allow the migration to take place with gratitude to the land of Cancer, to your mother's home? Because that is where everything makes sense. That is where everything comes alive. That's where the clarity is at. That's where the understanding is at. Is that she is your basis, by which you are perceiving and conceiving all of these things. She isn't trying to Pisces. She isn't trying to Scorpio. And that's the source of all things. That's you become a one-wit universe. No longer having to put forward so much hard work and effort to construct your life, to produce value, sustenance for yourself, identity for yourself, to claim your status and who you are. No, you start to realize that there is co-creation at work. 1 and 0. This is 2026, year number 10. 1 and 0. It's co-creation. But we can't realize co-creation if we're not inside of the water trine with the basis as Cancer. So if the basis is Cancer, we can understand what care is being asked of us. What type of advocacy has to go there? What type of care has to go there? What security is really supposed to look like in me? Because surely this conjunction is manifesting a deep sense of insecurity. And it points our eye back at Virgo. What do you have going on at Virgo that has you to feel like you're short of the care that you need? You're inadequate. You're still not good enough. You're in a cycle of futility where, I'm doing it again. I failed again. I messed up again. It's happening again. Is that really the case, or are you looking from Capricorn rather than looking from Cancer? Where are you standing at? That will determine whether or not you understand. Where are you standing? Virgo has a different presentation from Cancer than Virgo does from Capricorn. From Capricorn, it's about Virgo, in consideration of Capricorn, it's about being qualified for higher status. It's about becoming irreplaceable. It's about scrutinizing others, picking apart others in order to find validation in the self. It's about scrutinizing your reality in order to anticipate any possibilities of being removed from your throne. It's about judging and picking yourself apart into delusion and narcissism, to where you are motivated to go and put on Mr. Potato Head fictitious, superficial additives, commodities, false engagements, and everything else in order to feel secure or to feel that you measure up to a value that you already know in your soul is impossible for you to obtain and reach. It's you already counting yourself out as good enough, as meeting the standard of requirement to be validated or accepted. It's you trying to buy your way into status. It's you trying to sell pieces of your soul to get a permanent seat. In other words, it's you doing everything except the spiritual work to get there. And because your spiritual work might come up short, you feel insecure right now. You feel like you're about to get kicked off the bus. You feel like any minute now you're going to get your go home notice. You're going to get your layoff call. Any minute now, you're going to have to relive the rejection. It's because you're looking from the wrong perspective. You're not standing at your mother's house. You have not consulted your mother. You have not gazed into your mother's eyes before you took every action. Now you feel insecure. Now you're scared. Am I going to get rejected? Am I going to get left behind? Is this the end? I'm not going to be able to count out. You can't locate your value. You can't identify your value. You can't stay consistent with the claim of your value. You don't know where it is or where it comes from or what it's about, what it means. You don't know what your contribution is. You don't know where you stand. You don't know nothing. Because you're looking from Capricorn, where it's transactional. You have transactional assumptions. You're looking for digital representation. Yes, in that sense, you can count yourself out because that world is over in and of itself. Pholus is knocking the leaves off the tree. Pholus is holding winter to Capricorn. The leaves will continue to fall as long as Pholus is in Capricorn. It's dead. It's cold and dead. You cannot erect anything upon that. Cancer. That's where we're at. Come home. Come home where it all makes sense. Cancer. Everything is clarified from Cancer. The proper interpretation begins with Cancer. This Virgo eclipse will end, or it is supposed to end, this anxiety, this attachment to the agreement of narcissism, this participation in narcissistic cycles, the assumption of perfection over self and over others, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If I'm not perfect, I can't show up. If I'm not flawless, I can't show up. If you're not perfect and flawless, I don't want to deal with you. There's something at that Virgo placement that you have in your natal birth chart where you feel it's not good enough, it's inadequate. I don't have enough. I don't know enough. I'm not good enough. Because of my Virgo placement, I will get rejected. Because of my Virgo placement, I can't move through. Because of my Virgo placement, I don't have what it takes. Because of my Virgo placement, I have to remain silent. I have to remain dormant. I have to remain inanimate. I have to continue neglecting my mission. Is that so? Or is that what you're agreeing to? Is that what you're consenting to as ideal? Mind you, Mercury is about to go retrograde. And it's going to hold the context of this Virgo and Ceres conjunction with Chiron. It's going to hold it. Mercury is going to relate to Aries and the fact that Pisces itself is the concept of what we are anticipating at Aries. And there will be a review. Chiron will help us to reflect on Scorpio processes of shadow works that rebirths the identity through Scorpio, Aries. And Mercury will give us access to an expansive perception through the Jupiter transit and retrograde of Gemini, as well as last year's Uranus, Gemini-Uranus transits. And with all that into consideration, whatever corrections and adjustments that need to be made to make satisfactory the sense of inadequacies and the need for care to the self through Ceres and Aries conjunction at Aries, this retrograde highlights what we have learned from the South Node Virgo transit. Because ultimately that's the source of your insecurity right now. That's the source of your inadequacy right now. That's where you have a dilemma and you don't know what to do. How am I going to fix this? So that axis of Virgo and Pisces is active once again, working against your confidence, working against your self-esteem, working against everything that you thought you could believe in by now. But it's timely. It's timely. You can't rush it. It's a process. You're going to overcome this. You're going to get past this. It's just that you have to feel it. You have to feel it as you do it. Remember what you suffered and show obedience to it. Remember what your soul required you to learn and accept the reasons why. Confession goes a long way. Confession sets us free. Confession keeps us free. Because confession is like shining a light in a dark place on something that otherwise would have taken control of us because of our lack of awareness of it. When we confess, we also accept that this is the case. And once there's acceptance, we have initiated change. We have already initiated change. Confession can be all the acceptance that you need to initiate change. Pisces has been cleared out for you. It's a new slate. But Mercury has details to review. It has things to go over with you, to finalize this transfer of estate to you at Pisces. And Virgo has a lot to do with the retrograde that we are about to process through concerning Mercury in Pisces. Taurus, the Lord of Taurus, Venus, is also in Pisces, which is the third energy that goes with Ceres. That which we need to feel comfortable, to feel stable, to feel value in our life, to substantiate ourselves and our finances. We have imperfections everywhere. But let me raise this. Do not overlook intimacy. Do not overlook your relationships and your connections. Lean into them. Lean into each other. Love each other. Pour into each other. Support each other. And enable each other. Encourage each other. You've got to get active in that. You can't be selfish. You've got to get active. Pour into each other and encourage each other. Lift each other up. Learn how to sustain relationships without obsession with money, material, status, ego, competition, comparison. Come out of that. Because what I assure you is that if we can learn to honor each other through our mother matriarchal source, Yemayah, we can learn to create the enrichment that attracts all that we need. It will attract all that we need. Spirit is first. The energy is first. Everything else flows. Why can't we trust that? I've been saying it over and over again. Intimacy is the access to the future. Intimacy is the way to the future. And I'm not talking about hugging, kissing, and fucking. Okay? That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about valuing, cherishing, and honoring each other through intimate connections. Creating spaces of vulnerability by which we can become undressed. Let go, take off our disguises and our mask and pour into each other, enrich each other, and strengthen each other, because ultimately that's what we're going to need. And we can create that for each other. It's practicing community. We have to practice community. The same way that you suffer, somebody else suffers too. Practice community. Who's already in your orb by which this is the case? Those are your soulmates. This is not community that you have to go looking for. It's a community that you attract. Who are those intimate companions that you already have? Pour into them, see about them, care about them, check on them, love on them. Speak directly to their inner child. Cover them. Let them know they are safe. Let them know that they are supported. Let them know they are not by themselves. Reaffirm it, reaffirm it, reaffirm it. Encourage, encourage. Pour into. That's what's going to get us there. The current Aries Chiron conjunction with Ceres in transit, bringing up past themes of where there was inaction or where there were actions that now has consequences based on inadequacies in identity, inadequacies of the self, based on where conflict in the self warranted actions and initiatives but we failed to rise to the occasion. Perhaps you felt like who you were, it didn't have the support, it didn't have the nurturing, it didn't have the care to sustain the level of courage, consistency, commitment to the self, clarity, confidence, boldness, to assert ourselves and take up space in any environment. So this could lead to dormant talents, dormancy in identity, a lot of confusion inside where there may be the cognitive dissonance or the internal conflict where you know who you are, but the environments that you're in fails to confirm who you are, it rejects who you are, or it denies who you are. Perhaps we didn't have to push through. Perhaps we didn't have to push through. Or perhaps there were the cases where you didn't want to make a mess. You didn't want to pile up liabilities, casualties, collateral damage, so much that you know would have been expensive for you to manage and clean up as a mess per se, if you were to force it. I'm not going to force the issue. You know, I'm just not going to say nothing no more. You know what? I'm going to step back. I'm obviously not welcome here in this situation. You know, my help is not warranted. My expertise is not warranted. Nobody wants what I have to contribute. Nobody wants what I have to offer. I'm not getting support that I need. I'm not getting the respect, the care that I need. So we go into these behaviors where we're expressing a sense of retraction in ourselves, and that leads to looking for love in the wrong places. Because ultimately you still have to fill that void. You close down or shut down your identity based on these things, and you become an empty vessel. You become a ship that pirates have taken over, and now they got you using your talents for them. They got you using your power for them. They got you using your identity and the influence and gifts and energies and forces and talents and gifts, faculties that comes with it, for something that doesn't even match your heart, that doesn't even match your identity, doesn't even match your purpose. Somebody has repurposed you. It's like you saved up to get the car that you wanted, or to get the house that you wanted, and someone bullied you into handing over the keys. Somebody guilt tripped you into using a car that you saved up to get. Somebody guilt tripped you into moving and bulldozing their way into the house that you saved up to get. Somebody bullied you into taking over your shit. You have a ship that you use in commerce from sea to shining sea, and pirates just come and take over the whole vessel. And in taking over the vessel, everything that was on the ship of goods of value, they're taking it from continent to continent, but there's no claim in it for you. There's nothing in it for you. You're just being used. You're just being played. You're being suppressed. You're the real captain or the spirit of the ship, but they keep you down in the bottom of the ship with the barrels of rum and oil, with the sugar cane and the tobacco leaves. You don't get to have no say-so about the world that you know you're born to be king or queen of. There's no acceptance for you. Well, let's get the right perspective here. This is piracy. It's the aftermath of piracy. It's the aftermath of a culture of rejection of authentic light, of the true, of the real, the underdogs. The real ones have been suppressed. And ever since Neptune stepped into Pisces, ever since that transit, there has been the illusions of greatness, of authenticity, of status, of value, of credibility by the power of the internet. And although it started there, it spread itself as an accepted belief system throughout the world that merit and qualification is not what gets you to take your claim. It's about who you know. It's dirty politics. And within family, it's within the lines of dark covenants, dark agreements. Those who have come together to conspire through the channels of generational curses in which they cover each other. They become alliances of each other against you, the one who came with light to break that generational curse. Cognitively, they don't understand this, they don't know this, but in spirit, this is the case. And we're all caught up in the middle of all of this confusion. Most of you out there who are listening, you are that one who was meant to break that generational curse. That's why you're listening. That's why you're here. That's why you listen and tune in every day, because that's who you. This is who you are. I'm talking about you. That's who you are. And they knew that you were born to do this. They knew that you came to do this. So all the smoke, all the war, all the resistance, all the rejection, it was directed at you to keep you from doing that, from accomplishing that. To take back over your own ship after pirates took it over, you, the vessel, to reclaim the self, to take claim of the self again. And when you do claim proper status of the self, when you do realign with the authentic story, narrative, theme, value, identity of the self, it doesn't mean that you're going to have help and support when you get there. It doesn't mean that they're going to egg you on. They're going to clap for you. If anything, it's going to be quite opposite. And this is the reminder of that, this conjunction of Ceres and Chiron and Aries. It's reminding you that you have a responsibility to heal this. It's reminding you that you got to do something about this. You have to take care of that wound. You can't just walk around, suppress it, ignore it, pretend like it's not there. You have to create and facilitate a means of healing it. And the healing is in corrective action. The healing is in due process. The healing isn't doing that which should have been done in the first place. The healing is doing what you know better now to do. The healing is acting and living according to what Saturn has taught you as it transit through Pisces. Now that Saturn has completed Pisces, what have you learned? What have you come to understand? What do you know better now? And that's the healing. The healing is to align with that wisdom, to align with that insight, to align with those instructions of what you have learned from that 2.5-year karmic transit, which closed the lessons of since 2011 Pisces Neptune transit. What do you understand now? Pisces is the concept of the self. It's a concept of your reality. It's a concept of your identity. Delusions and illusions have passed through that because we went into the world. We went since 2011. We've been going through a world of deception, illusion, falsehoods and status, false claims, assumptions. Okay? A lot of fucking peacocks walking around pretending to be something that they're not. Everything was about if you look the part. You got to be pretty, you got to be handsome, you got to look like you have these fancy watches and fancy cars and status and all the superficial crap that has deceived the people, that has tricked the people, that has dumbed down the people. Totally disconnecting from actual value, from true significance, from true actual talent. We have become a talentless society. Talent is still there, but talent is not what's uplifted. Agendas are uplifted, not talent. You have many celebrities and all these different things who are enjoying millions and billions of dollars, but in your local community, you have people who are far more talented to them, but they can't get a single eye to watch them. They can't get any attention. They can't get any clout. They can't get no status. They can't get no check. Because there are gatekeepers. There are gatekeepers to these realms, to these worlds, to these levels, to enjoy these such a status. There's gatekeepers. That's what this is really all about. See, what changing positions is what this is. And this is a notification with this conjunction of Aries and Ceres, of Aries Ceres and Aries Chiron. It's telling you, okay, now that you know better, now that you understand what happened and why, now that you know better, it's time to get up and stop feeling sorry for yourself, stop making the excuses. You have to heal because you have to go forward. So it's time to use what you learn. It's time to use what you experience. It's time to practice what you now understand about the game. You peep the game. You understand what the game was. You see what the trick was. You see what the strategy was of the enemy. You see what the enemy was doing and what the enemy was plotting, what the enemy was planning. So what you're going to do now, it's time now to use that information to empower yourself. What was it about your life that kept you impaired or feeling impaired, feeling disqualified or unqualified to step into your destiny? It's because you felt within yourself that you were not able to reach the level of perfection that you would be able to convince others of your qualifications because you lacked the perfection. But the perfection is an illusion because none of them had the perfection. They only had the image. They only had a part or a role to play in the agenda itself, which gave them the status. But we learned to generate actual authority from the spirit, status from the spirit, empowerment from the spirit. Those who were enjoying these timelines were assigned authority, assigned power, assigned role, assigned status, assigned different positions to play in the hierarchy of this world and society. Not because they actually were qualified, not because they actually were that value. And that's part of the illusion that had you to feed back to yourself that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. This applies to all aspects of the life. For some of you, it was a career, it was a work environment. For some of you, it was family, relationships, generational issues, community, demographic, whatever, okay? It applies to all realms, all aspects. That there were false players, there were illusions, there were magicians, warlocks. None of it was real. But you, the real one, had to suffer. The real ones were suffering all of this time. Since Neptune went into Pisces, the real ones were in turmoil and suffering. And there was the illusion that I'm not qualified, I'm not good enough. Where does this come from? This comes from the South Node Virgo. Virgo is where the narcissism entered acceleration in society. That narcissism where people will make fun of you, they'll laugh at you, they'll shame you back into position. They'll shame you in order to control you. They'll come together in alliances against those who hold true light. So the ones who have real light, the ones who have official light, the ones who walk with true wisdom, true talent, the ones who have all of these things in authenticity, all of these things in realness of the spirit, okay, where nobody assigned them authority, nobody assigned them power, nobody assigned them a position, nobody gave something to them. They worked for it, they suffered for it, they went through heaven, they went through hell. They went through hell in the bottom of the earth for it. Okay? These were the Cinderellas and these were the Josephs of the well. These were the ones who were downtrodden, who were left under the bridge to just die and fucking rot. But they turned out to be the golden child. Hidden under the basement, hidden in the cellar. It's these ones that were the real ones. But the fake ones were in the throne. The fake ones were enjoying the higher status. The fake ones were the ones who were influencing the world. The fake ones were the ones who were programming the minds of the people. The fake ones were the ones who were teaching people how to be, how to think, what to feel, what to agree with, and what to disagree with. And shaming tactics was the number one tool. That was the best tool. That was the greatest tool that they had in the shed, was to shame you back into position, to shame you back into compliance, to shame you back into agreement, to shame you back into docility, to shame you back into inanimacy, to shame you back into a surrender of your power. By telling you you're not good enough, you're not qualified, you're not the person that they see you are, and they refuse to acknowledge it. This is a cycle that's been going on and playing, and in spirit they know that the underdogs now have to come up and rise. The underdogs now have to come to surface. The underdogs now have to come to power. The ones who were suffering and going in the underworld, they now have to come up. And they're scared. They're terrified. They don't want this to happen. The universe, let me not be mysterious about it, our great mother, Yemayah, okay? She wants you to get back in touch with where the root and source of your empowerment is at. See, the illusion was that our root and source of empowerment was in Capricorn, but no, it was in Cancer. That's the root and source of our empowerment. Not in Capricorn, it's in Cancer. So as long as you are consenting to that illusion, to that false race of competition, greed, consumerism, status through how much money you have, status to what college degree you got, status to what job title you have, your corporate leverage that you got, what position or role that you play in climbing the skyscrapers to enjoy power, authority, and abundance. Okay, the shadow 8 energy, the corporate state of mind, the dog eat dog, survival of the fittest, the Machiavellian mind state. Compare yourself to this person, compare yourself to that person. Everything boils down to a price. Everything's about money. If it's not about money, I don't even want to talk. This is where we went to. We went to the devil card, and we became the devil. As we went through the devil card, we became the devil. We betrayed the 4th house. We betrayed Cancer. We betrayed the matriarchal source, the matriarchal mother. Aries does not work for Capricorn. Aries works for its mother, Cancer. Thank you very much. That's who the sun is a warrior for. His mother. His mother. We have to remember our mother. That's the source of our dignity. That's the source of our pride. That's the source of our strength. That's the source of our integrity. That's the source of our security. That's the source of our clarity. That's the source of our decisiveness. That's the source of our identity. That's the source of our trust. That's the source of our transparency. That's the source of our intimacy. That's the source of our life. Our mother. Matriarchal source. Thank you very much. 4th house, Cancer. But feminism uniquely, and see, when I bring this word up, y'all turn your ears off. That's your fucking problem right now. Let me stop cursing. That's your problem right now. You turn your ears off. As soon as somebody say feminism, you turn your ears off, you get offended, you start clutching your pearls. You get mad. You just stop listening right there. And that's your problem. That's why you're not teachable. That's why you're not receptive. And that's why somehow you keep creating and recreating the same thing over and over again, and you pretend like it's a mystery to you how you keep getting there. It's not a mystery. You got selective hearing. You hear what you want to hear. Whatever don't make you feel bubbly inside or butterflies inside, you select to decline the information or the awareness. You block the light, you stop the light from passing. And there's a price to pay for that. It's very expensive to behave that way. It's very expensive to be out here moving that way because we're going against the grain. We have to found ourselves back in Cancer. When we're standing on Capricorn, the Chiron and Ceres conjunction is very difficult to confront because now you're going to have to purchase things to feel a sense of replenishment. You're going to have to purchase things to feel like you're coming whole again. You're going to have to buy and purchase all kinds of services and products in order to feel like you're putting ointment, medicine, or healing pain medication, okay, over that Chiron, to feel like you're really taking care of yourself. You're going to feel like you have to produce, you look like you're going to have to consume all kind of products and services in order to make up for that. The third thing is you're going to feel like you have to achieve certain status in society in competition or in comparison to other people in order to feel adequate again, in order to feel whole again. That's the problem with being rooted in Capricorn rather than rooted in Cancer. When you are rooted in Cancer, you consult the inner child for all of these things. You go to the inner child for the source of healing and relevance. You consult the matriarchal mother and you lay your head on her breast. You lay your head on your mother's breast. You lay your head on your mother's lap. And you find console. You find healing. That reaches the soul. That reaches the heart. That reaches the innermost chambers of the self at the fourth house. Whichever algorithm that is for you, that is what you end up reaching for. And naturally, what goes into play with this, because Ceres is acting as the healer of Chiron, the co-healer or co-nurturer, that is specifically the nurturer of the facilitation of Chiron's healing, it brings Virgo into play as well. But Virgo in illumination rather than Virgo in detriment or shadow. Because Virgo in illumination, it has us to rebirth ourselves through the number 9 principle. And the number 9 principle is, through solitude, I can always recover myself. Through solitude, I can find myself. Through solitude, I can redeem myself. Because in solitude, I meet my mother. In solitude, I meet Source. In solitude, I commune with Source. In solitude, I regenerate and I plug back into my center of gravity. I am reminded of who I am and what I stand for, what I believe in. I'm reminded of what gives me life and what sources my life. I'm reminded of what my true security is, which is righteousness. And righteousness is authenticity. And if I am to be authentic, I am to stand in the image and likeness of God. This is to realign with my moral compass, realign with my values, realign with my integrity. This is to realign with what my conscience illuminates upon. What does that do? It facilitates inner peace. It facilitates acceptance. It facilitates clarity. It facilitates confidence. It facilitates universal love. It facilitates self-compassion. It facilitates understanding. It is medicinal. You are healing yourself in that remembrance. But you have to enter through the number 9. You have to enter through the South Node Virgo. So if we look at the shadow aspect of Virgo, that is to look at the self in an assumption of perfection. And when you look at an assumption of perfection, it is futile. It is futility. You have entered into a cycle of futility. And that cycle of futility, it brings you back to Capricorn once again. And what is that? I have to consume something. I have to purchase something in order to fulfill the ideal of perfection of myself. Therefore, I have to go buy a very expensive car and burden myself. I have to go buy wigs and lashes and fake teeth and all this other stuff to keep up with ideal, standardized concepts of beauty to feel good about myself. I have to go and reach for a lifestyle or a status that doesn't make me happy but makes me feel validated. I have to choose a career path or friends or surround myself with people who make me feel validated rather than fulfilled, or people who bring in my access to status and competition rather than access to fulfillment and community and love, stability in the inner core. So we're reaching for different things for different reasons, but this time the correction comes around. It's different this time with Chiron conjunct Ceres and Aries. Why? Because we have learned, or we should have learned, how to reroot ourselves in Cancer, not in Capricorn. Okay? Reroot ourselves. So in this remembrance, we are able to sustain and regenerate our own healing. And this is to revive our morals. Any place where we look and regret in our past, there was a moral basis in why we went astray, or there's a basis of accountability where we went astray. It's only two places. There's only the possibility of it being these two places: accountability and moral commitment. It is the only way to manifest that regret that pain that lingers concerning this conjunction of Chiron and Ceres. It's presenting to you where in the past you have failed to honor accountability and moral commitment simultaneously. The moon and Saturn. There are regrets where we fail to be accountable with our power of consent, where we fail to be accountable with our free will, where we fail to be accountable with our strength, where we fail to be accountable with our power, our influence, our access, where we fail to be accountable with our talents, our status, accountable for ourselves and what we tolerated or allowed, or the boundaries that we may have failed to defend, stand behind, or place around our sense of values in our life. And what did that do? It entered us into the courts of prostitution, in which everything became transactional. I'm going to purchase my security by selling my soul. I'm going to purchase my sense of acceptance by selling my soul. I'm going to purchase love by selling my soul. I'm going to purchase a status in this society by selling my values and my soul. We entered into the courts of prostitution. So we're buying our way out of slavery. We're buying our way out of prostitution, and we are rescinding these inappropriate powers, authorities, and false agreements. We're rescinding it all. We're burning the contracts. This is essentially what we're doing, is we're learning how to rescind and go back and burn all these contracts that has us bound. On the other side, as I mentioned, moral commitment. So there's two lines. As I mentioned about accountability, the other side is moral commitment. Where do we fail in moral commitment? Any place where we fail in moral commitment, we will feel insecurity. We will feel inner turmoil. There will be conflict inside of the self. The self will be at war with the self. Our conscience will not have quiet. Our mind will not have peace. There will be internal warfare. The inner child will be disturbed. The inner child will be unhappy with you. The inner child will continue to manifest relationships that are a sign or a reflection of how you are dealing with him or her. The inner child will keep reminding you through failed relationships in your life of how you're treating it or her or him. The inner child. The inner child will not let you have peace. The inner child will keep reminding you of what you keep doing to him or her. You betray the inner child. You ignore the inner child. You violate the inner child. You expose the inner child to harm and danger and regret. You leave the inner child out in the cold. You betray your wisdom. You're always putting yourself in harm's way. And you justify it because of what? Your five senses. Because of you getting caught up with the illusions of Venus. You getting caught up with false light of Venus. You getting caught up in sensationalism with Venus. Because of the things that you want out of Venus. And this is where the crisis of Pisces comes in at, in which Venus is exalted in Pisces. So Pisces is the territory within the spirit of the self, in which we fail to have those boundaries, in which we fail to express have the awareness of that consent. And essentially what ends up happening here, the Pisces and Virgo axis, it becomes in spirit a reflection of what we all experience all over the world of illegal immigration. And you might be taking your hat off right now. What is this dude talking? What is he talking about? Right? Okay, I'll explain. We know that Pisces and Neptune, it represents foreigners, foreign affairs. This is where you look to get an insight into, what's going on with, illegal immigration and, different things like that. And then Virgo with the workforce, okay, and how that affects workforce. So on and so forth. All right. So this axis was a hot axis for the past 2.5 years. OK, ever since Biden bowed out of presidency and Donald Trump stepped into presidency, this has been a hot topic. ICE, and all of these different things. So check it out. Remember, as above, so below. OK, below in the earth, this is what's taking place. OK, illegal immigration. You have a lot of people that just walk through the gate without due process, without consent, without contractual agreement, based on assumptions, misinformation, desperation, or whichever else, the case may be. Okay, whatever justifiable reasons that people may have, people came through the borders without taking the appropriate measures to do so. Okay, regardless of whether you agree with it or not, everybody knows that that's what happened. Okay, now this has consequences in society because things are not being done properly. It's going to create an imbalance somewhere. So now, at least what's being proposed to us is there's this urgency to get all illegals, okay, out of the nation. Rid the nation of illegals. So we got to get ICE on it to get illegal, status persons out of the nation. Okay, at least this is what they're telling us. Okay, because the truth is we all know that all this shit they did on purpose. Okay, we know that. But I'm just speaking to the principle of this. Now, the same thing happened in spirit. Okay, the same thing was happening in spirit. But where the problem comes in at, and where the regret comes in at, in hindsight, is you haven't and I haven't been aware of the fact that this is what's been taking place. Okay, we've been complacent, and we have not been identifying that this has been taking place to us in spirit. So, what do I mean by that? When you look at the 12th house in Pisces, this is your unawareness. This is your subconscious territories. This is where you have a foot in the essence. Okay? When you die, okay, after death, you already got one foot in the realm that you're going back to. The essence, Pisces, 12th house. Okay? That's that essence right there. Now, that essence is the spirit realm. That is the spirit realm. It's the realm where nothing has form, nothing has flesh, nothing has density, nothing is subject to the laws of physics. Okay? Nothing is subject to the laws of physics. It's a spirit essence. Now, when you look at the 12th house, in spirit essence, these are the energies. These are the impulses of planets. These are the aspects that begin in shadow or lack of illumination within the self until karma teaches you awareness and command of them through consent. Okay, through the obligation and responsibility of consent concerning these energies and impulses, aspects, and planetary communications within the self. Okay, these are spiritual impulses, communications, and signalings from the 12th house that requires your consent to transfer themselves from the 12th house into the 6th house, by which they have access to your physical walk in reality in the physical realm. Okay, that is a stargate. 12th house and 6th house is a stargate access. That's what you need to understand. Okay, if there are internalized spirits in the self, especially negative spirits that you were born to confront, to fight, to conquer, such as generational curses and covenants that came through the blood, they're going to start out in shadow or detriment. Okay, planets in the 12th house, they start out in shadow and detriment. And it's basically the fact that it doesn't have knowledge, wisdom, understanding, or love. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding, or love to give illumination to these impulses. And because it lacks knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and love to give illumination to these impulses, it takes your up to your first Saturn return, the 29th and a half year of you dealing with these energies, and it causing you cycles of undoing, self-betrayal, self-sabotage, so on and so forth, to where it's constantly breaking you down. All right? And what that's doing is it's generating the basis by which you realize compassion and universal love, by which you realize understanding, by which you realize a spiritual insight into your life and conviction. Okay? So these shadow aspects have to train you into that spiritual awareness, because the 12th house is your spiritual estate. Okay, but you have to suffer to access that spiritual estate. That's what activates it. Is the assignment of suffering that naturally comes along with that. Okay, so from the 12th house, for example, this is the place where, in general, okay, there are many specifics that could go with this, but in general, this is where you have the 7 sins and the 7 virtues. Okay, the 7 sins is a shadow of the planet. The 7 virtues is the illumination of the planet. The 7 sins is the shadow of the algorithm of spirit called zodiac signs. The 7 sins is the algorithm of positivity, love, compassion, truth, wisdom, justice of the algorithm or sign in the 12th house. But it starts out in lack of illumination. Because it starts out in lack of illumination, it causes us constant undoing. You see what I'm saying? So now these are what's called spirits. Okay, these spirits, for example, let's just take spirit of greed, okay, or spirit of gluttony. Say if you have spirit of gluttony, it's asking for your consent from the 12th house to come through the stargate of the 6th house in order to take form, in order to find a vessel of density, a vessel of physics, a vessel that is subject to the laws of physics, so that it can occupy with you. You see, and it has to have your consent to enter from the 12th house to the 6th house. Okay, that's a tunnel. If you think about the 12th house and the 6th house, it's a tunnel. And you come, and that shadow aspect is asking for your consent to come from spirit essence into the laws of physics to be with you through the 6th house. Okay, it has to enter through the 6th house because the 6th house is where it becomes, is where it initiates or gets initiated as your subject. Okay, it gets initiated as your subject through the 6th house because the 6th house is your daily routine, your daily habits, that which you consume. Okay, it's that which you consume. As you know, I just went over the 12 jewels of Islam, right? So if you go back to the 12 jewels of Islam, when I was talking about food, it's not only the substance of, material, food and calorie that you eat, but it's also that which you consume, through the ears, the eyes, or the 5 senses. Okay, it's what you consume in and of itself. So 6th house is the same. All right. So these negative impulses at the 12th house is asking for your consent to include it in form. Okay, to assign it a form in your daily routine so that it can become a habit. Once it becomes a habit, it becomes a covenant. You see what I'm saying? Once it becomes a habit, it becomes a covenant. Once it becomes a habit and covenant, it becomes something that is embodied in you, not just with you, but it is embodied with you. You see what I'm saying? When you choose for one of these energies to be embodied with you, essentially what you're doing is you're becoming a host to these energies that are eventually going to totally consume you. You see what I'm saying? And it becomes you. So it takes you over. It takes over your life. And you're on autopilot. You're totally unaware of the fact that you use your consent and your power inappropriately, because now it is using you as the vessel for its own aims. Okay, it infiltrated you and took you over, and now it's using you for its own aims. So now you started out as this slim person, you can see your collarbone, low calories, and low body fat percentage or whatever else. In the spirit of gluttony, ask for your permission to come from the 12th house into the 6th house. So on the way home from work, 6th house, you stop at McDonald's, you get 5 burgers. You know what I'm saying? You eating all type of greasy food and different things like that. Next thing you know, somebody comes by a couple years later, you this big fat sloppy roly-poly. You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody know what happened. And what that is that the spirit of greed that you consented to, the spirit of gluttony that you consented to at the 12th house, you gave it consent. Through the 6th house, it became a habit that became part of your character. And that habit and character became destiny. And because it became destiny, it became covenant and became embodiment. And so now you embody the image of gluttony, which is obesity. You see what I'm saying? And so that's how it went from 12th house into 6th house. And where did it begin at? It began with your consent. It began with you giving consent to that spirit, because the spirit had to ask your permission to do that so that it could dwell with you and then thus consume you. Okay, so you have gluttony, you have greed, you have lust, you have anger, you have malice, you have jealousy, envy, you know what I'm saying? Hatred, different things like that, okay? Every planet carries a shadow aspect of one or combination of those 7 sins, okay? And we know that the 7 has branches, all right, of other attributes as well. But, you could do all those details yourself. But anyway, you think of the 12th house and the 6th house just like the border, okay? The same time that the border came, Title 42 was lifted so that the border could be infiltrated, back in those days, when it all first started, where everybody started pouring in the borders and all those different things, this started to happen in spirit as well, okay? Because remember, the North Node Pisces and South Node Virgo was being lined up during the same time simultaneously. Therefore, in spirit, the same thing was happening also, okay? To where the spirits that we had at the 12th house, they were being let loose into our 6th house without us knowing it, without us realizing it. It was taking over our 6th house without us knowing it, without us realizing it. Okay, so we get all of these illegal immigrant spirits. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about spirits. Okay, so stick with me in the context. Okay, so in spirit, we had the same situation going on where many shadows of detriment from the 12th house was getting our consent through our negligence or through the ignorance in our agreements to transfer themselves from the 12th house into the 6th house, okay? Now, what was the incentive for us to let them in, okay? There's an incentive for illegal immigrants to be let into America, okay? And that incentive is free labor, or cheap labor, okay? It's cheaper labor. And then when they come to arrest them and subject them to the Title 13, it becomes free labor, because once you're arrested and become subject to Title 13, you now lose your freedom. You become a slave all over again, and they can sell them all over the world, which is why you ended up finding that, illegal immigrants is all over the world. Once they once ICE takes them into custody, they can end up anywhere all over the world. You know what I'm saying? Because it's basically slave trading. But the same thing happens in spirit. Okay, so they got your consent, entered into your 6th house, take over your 6th house. And what was the incentive for that? Okay, in the world, it was a workforce, but for you, the incentive was you could use this energy for 1 or 2 reasons, okay? Because you felt that this was going to compensate. By allowing this energy through, it's going to compensate for the internal war and conflict that you have with yourself and the lack of forgiveness that you have for yourself for not being perfect, for not living up to the ideal of what you see in comparison through social media ideals of that Pisces Neptune transit since 2011, okay? And you might be the dickhead jerk who sit there and, in your holy arrogance and fold your arms and say, oh, it's not me because I never bought into that. I don't even look on the internet. I'm different. Bitch, you're not special, okay? And it's people like you that's the problem, okay? You motherfuckers out there who think you special, you're the fucking problem, because you're not special, bitch, okay? You're not fucking special. I'm trying not to curse, but, the shit is pissing me off. You're not special, because it don't take for you to go directly to the internet to get that influence. The dominant influence is the internet, so it spreads all over the earth as a standardized ideal that you become aware of and buy into without being aware of your consent and buying into it. Understand that. So you start looking at yourself in comparison, and the anxiety builds that I haven't accomplished this, I haven't accomplished that, I haven't become this, I haven't become that, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that, I don't have this amount of money, I don't have this status, I don't have this career, I don't have this going on, okay? All of the inadequacies that are less than perfect, okay? And this was buying into the agreement of narcissism. This was buying into the agreement of having very high standards but very low value, of having all these standards and expectations of others, but no value and void in yourself, okay? So when somebody sits down and actually has a real conversation with you or gets to live with you for a while, they see you really ain't about shit. You see what I'm saying? You're decorated. You got all the nice trinkets. You got the nice car. You got the nice house. You got your college degree and all these different things. But inside, you're a mess. You're depressed. You're always drinking. You know what I'm saying? You're unhappy. you're miserable inside, okay, but you put on a good act for the world, okay, because you're disconnected from the matriarchal source Cancer, and instead your basis and grounding of yourself is in Capricorn. So through Capricorn, you're trying naturally to Virgo, which is that narcissistic tendency. Understand that. So that narcissistic tendency, it needs all these things to cope, because that's a very harsh, cruel, and cold pathway to take upon the soul, because it voids the soul, it bankrupts the soul, it strips the soul of its nutrients. You walk around like an empty shell, an empty vessel, and you have to consume those who have true light. Okay, those who have true light are not going to be decorated on the outside. They're not going to be extravagant on the outside. People who have true light are not going to have all the fancy trinkets and all these different things. People who have true light are very simple. They're frugal. They're not all, extra and highlighted and dazzling and all these sparkling lights all around them. People with real light and people with real beauty don't have these things. You see what I'm saying? So the people who's walking around with the false light, they would have to go and get these underdogs, which usually end up being the codependent. Okay? They usually end up being the codependent energy. The underdog with the codependent energy gets consumed by the narcissist, and the narcissist turns the codependent person into a vampiric host, and they suck the vitality, the life force, and the light out of that codependent underdog person who has true light. But the underdog person is not even aware of their true light. They're not aware that they're the ones who have the real light. They're not aware that they're the real deal. They're not aware that they are everything that the narcissist wish they could be inside, that they have fullness and completion inside of themselves. The issue with the codependent is that they're under this spell and illusion and not seeing the estate of their self, so they sell their self in order to feel accepted and loved, in order to feel validated, in order to feel as if they don't have to worry about being betrayed, left behind, neglected, overlooked, or forgotten. You understand what I'm saying? It's like a fear of being alone in a sense. So they're willing to sell their soul in exchange for the feeling or illusion, even though they know that it's a lie. They know that it's an illusion, but they're willing to pay the price anyway, just not to feel alone. You see what I'm saying? And you can see how this goes back to the South Node Virgo axis number 9, which works against the detriment of Venus. Okay, and Venus is exalted in Pisces, where we have these addictive patterns and behaviors and escapism, the blending in and dissolving with other identities and not able to find yourself or define yourself again because you've been so consumed, with others and things of that nature. And so that 12th house and 6th house axis is a stargate, and we had to learn to have dignity, to have self-respect, to have a sense of pride, all rooted, okay, in the Cancer matriarchal confederacy of ourself. That's what I'm gonna call it. The Cancer matriarchal confederacy of ourself. We had to reestablish ourselves in that, and that began with the Cancer Mars retrograde transit, which was the restoration of the relationship and peace treaty between you and inner child. And then the shadow work, that was the truth of you that you suppressed and that you sold, that you had to get back your shadows. You had to go and recover your shadows again, because ultimately the shadows was the children of yourself that you rejected. And the children of yourself are the 5th house talents, gifts, expressions of yourself that you suppressed and that you didn't allow to have a place or role in your life because it wasn't part of the deal, and you prostituting yourself or selling yourself in order to be accepted by the de facto state illusion of this world, okay? And those operatives and players in this world who held ranks, roles, opportunities, or what seemed like advantages and different things of that nature, and out of your desperation of feeling void inside of yourself, even though you was really the dream child, you were willing to sell your soul because you thought that they had the value that you didn't have, but really you're the one who have the value that they know they don't got. You know what I'm saying? Which is why they need you, but they pretend like they don't. You see what I'm saying? And so that 12th house, 6th house axis, it's a correction. Okay, so you have to go back and get all those illegal spirits, and you have to cast them out. You have to go back and hunt down all these illegal spirits, and you have to cast them out. You have to get all these illegal spirits and you have to confront them and say, hey, listen, I didn't authorize you to come in here. I'm rescinding this agreement. I'm rescinding this contract. I'm rescinding this, okay? You're putting those boundaries up there. You're putting troops at the gate. You're putting troops at the at the borders, okay, between the 12th and 6th house, and you're making sure that there's checkpoints. You're making sure that when it comes to consent, that when they come to seek your consent, that you're the one who's in charge, that you have full awareness of what's being asked of you. You have full awareness of, what their intentions are, or what it is that they're trying to, get done. Like, why are you here? Okay, why do you need to come into the sixth house? Why do you need to be with me in my daily walk? Why do you need to, incorporate yourself into my identity and status? Why? Okay, you know what I'm saying? I'm examining you now. And that's part of the corrective action that we're taking in sight of Ceres, Aries, Chiron conjunction. Okay, is us realizing that now we have to put rules, we have to put laws, we have to put boundaries, we have to honor our power of consent at the borders, okay, between the 12th house and 6th house, because I just can't be letting any kind of impulse come from the 12th house into the 6th house. And this also teaches us that whatever is at the 12th house, we have the power to give it illumination so that it does not become a demonic possession, okay? Because once you give a power of illumination, yes, come on in the 6th house. I will authorize you to come in. Yes, I will consent for you to come into the 6th house with me. Because when you give a 12th house impulse illumination, it's an act of love. It's an act of compassion. It's an act of wisdom. You see what I'm saying? It's an act of healing. And you bring that into the 6th house with you as, gifts that you incorporate into the self, and it becomes characterized, because whatever is done at the 6th house, it forms itself at the 10th house. So it becomes characterized. It becomes characterized. Understand? So characterization of illumination rather than characterization of detriment and shadow or lack of love. Okay? Which is what we were becoming as a society, because we were standing on Capricorn rather than standing on our mother's lap. Okay? So anyway, without getting too much into that, the more questions you ask, the more I can help you. The more y'all get involved, you know what I'm saying, the more I can help you. But you just sitting back licking windows, picking boogers and shit like that, I don't know what the fuck, you know what I'm saying, I don't know where to meet you at. You know what I mean? I could be more helpful to you the more that, you give me the feedback. The more that you give me the feedback, so I know where you at. And it also lets me know what kind of content to make. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, consider this. Weigh this. I know it's a lot, but main thing, don't panic, because this is course correction that we're on. This is course correction. You know what I mean? You're gonna feel like, like you dropped the ball. You're gonna feel like you made a lot of mistakes, like the past is coming back to haunt you. But I'm here to assure you, no, that's not the case. That's not the case. The past is not coming back to haunt you. All that has to happen is we have to use what we know. We have to apply what we now understand. You know what I mean? We have to strategize. We have to slow down the speed, and we have to strategize and be intentional about how we design our life. We have to become intentional. And we have to keep in remembrance that our morality is our security. Our accountability is our freedom. You see what I'm saying? So without morality, we don't have security. Without morality, we don't have inner peace. Okay? And I dare to say what I know, it makes me so unpopular. Feminism has done a job in stripping people of their morals, especially behind the voice of African American females. African American females are the loudest ones in the room, and they have been since Neptune has been transiting through Pisces, and you have to be very careful about the influence that you pick up from African American females. This does not mean the case for all African American females. I'm not making a sweeping indictment, but what I'm saying is that sisterhood has been misled. They have been deliberately brainwashed to think the way that they're thinking, and is very dangerous. The African American female and the white supremacist is the same person. They are in the bed with the Khazarians and don't know it. African American females are working for Khazarians and they don't know it. They're doing the dirty work of Khazarians, they don't know it. They are the high priestess of dark priests, Khazarians, and they don't know it. They're doing the agenda of Satan and they can't see it. So you've got to be careful about influence that you're picking up from African American females' theologies, mantras, their sayings, their opinions, their advice. You've got to be very careful of listening to them, because they are no different than white supremacists and Khazarians. They are the same spirit. They are the same energy. And they will mislead you. They will send you down a path of self-destruction and doom. because they are upon Capricorn, the shadow of Capricorn. They are not on the matriarchal principle. They are not on the matriarchal source. They are not on the matriarchal core. Even though they claim this in feminism, it is a lie. None of them has been able to explain to you or anybody else what matriarchy even is. All these years that I'm running their mouth about matriarchy, and not a single one of them understand what it really is. Not a damn one of them. She goes against Cancer. She goes against matriarchal source. She goes against the fourth house. And she actively does so with pride. And you've got to be very careful of what you're taking from her. You can't be fooled by looks and beauty and a loud ass mouth and a person who's eloquent and uses vernacular and talks real special. And us Black American people, we could get real fancy with how we, with our expressions. But you got to be careful, because just because a shit sound good don't mean it's good. Just because it sound fancy and it's talking, it is spoken with vernacular and swagger, don't mean that it should be consumed. You have got to be careful. You have got to watch it. Black American females are dangerous to follow in the state that they are in right now. They will come around, but right now they are not out that tunnel. They're still spinning in circles of futility with themselves by what they themselves have created out of their rebellion. But it is a learning catalyst. And it's necessary. It has to happen. It's going to benefit everybody in the end. But they're not out the oven yet. They're still cooking. You've got to be careful of what you're glorifying and what you're consenting to of what gets glorified.